Hello friends, Ms. Pariseau here with the next section of our geometry review, which will focus on our angle relationships. So make sure that you go back and study that vocabulary. So if anything kind of doesn't make sense to you, go back to that vocabulary. That's going to tell us how to do those setups there. All right, so here we are. We're taking a look at number 15 to start us off here. And if we notice, we got two intersecting lines. Before I even look at the problem, some things I want to notice is that when angles are across from each other like this, they share just a vertex. Those are vertical angles and they are equal to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and label the diagram. I said angle 4 is 3x and angle 2 is 7x minus 84. Well, I know since these two are vertical that they are equal in value, and I can go ahead and set up this equation. All right, so from there we would go ahead and solve the equation. I'm going to move my x term to the other side, so subtract 7x from both sides. That'll cancel it out and get negative 84. All right, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by a negative 4. Be careful not to drop that term, drop that negative sign. And we end up getting x is equal to 21. Now, go back and double check. Did you do what they wanted you to do? You did some math, but it does not mean that's the answer. They want the measure of angle 2. They don't want, we found just the x value. So we have to take this and we just have to plug in 21 for that x value there. All right, so if we go ahead and do that, and we have 7 times 21 is going to be 147. Oops, let me write that down, sorry. 147 minus 84 is our angle 2, so it's going to be 61 degrees. And let's label it. Angle 2 equals 61, and it's measured in degrees, so we put that degree symbol. We also could have just plugged it into angle 4, because angle 2 and 4 are equal. Probably would have been a lot easier. 3 times 21 would have gotten there. Sorry, I said 61. I meant to say 63. Okay? All right. Okay, let's take a look at number 16. Find the value of x. Okay, so if we solve for x, we're good. All right, the type of relationship, we see that we have two parallel lines. I know they're parallel because of these symbols right here. This line right here is my transversal. Okay, and when I do that, that creates these angle relationships. So notice this angle right here is in the same position as here. So imagine taking this section right here, and let's kind of just show you that. Right, if I click on that, I can literally drag it right there, and it's the exact same angle. Okay, and that is called a corresponding angle, right? They're in the same corners, they're on the same side, and they are equal in value. So we know that 26x is equal to 25x plus 5. So I'm able to set up my equation, and now I can go ahead and solve. So I'm going to subtract this 25x from this side, and do the same thing over here, and I get x is equal to 5. And again, go back up. Yep, all I wanted was the value of x. I didn't need the angle measure, so I am done. All right, anytime you have a diagram, always a good idea to take a look at the given information and label it, and then just kind of fill out whatever you can based on all of your definitions and things that you know. Okay? All right, given the diagram at the right, now we're going to assume they didn't tell us that they're parallel. Let's go ahead and just put that little parallel mark on there. They technically should tell you that they're parallel to each other. All right, but measure angle 1 is 120 degrees. Well, if this is 120 degrees, angle 4 is also 120 degrees because they're vertical. All right, and we just talked about if this is 120 degrees, right, I can click. Oops, sorry, let me click on, no, it's not going to let me do it. I was going to be creative and just slide it down. Okay. All right, it's this angle right here is going to be the same as angle 6. It's corresponding. So we have 120 there. Well, angle 8 is vertical to that one, so it's also 120. Well, if angle 1 is 120, then that means that angle 2 right here, it comes together to finish this straight line. So that means that this is 60, and everything else is also going to be 60. So from that one piece of information, I was able to go ahead and label my diagram, and now I've got enough information to go back and start filling in those values. The measure of angle 3, I just have to look at my diagram, was 60. The measure of angle 6 was 120. The measure of angle 8 was also 120. Now, when they're asking, again, remember that M stands for measure, so they're looking for a degree. When they're asking about the relationship, they want the vocabulary here. So angle 1 and angle 4, well, we talked about those. Those are vertical angles, and that means that they are congruent or equal to each other. Okay, I always add that part in. You don't need to, but it lets me know not only have I identified the relationship, I've identified how, like, if I need to set it up as an equation, what I can do. All right, angle 1 and 8. Well, here's angle 1, here's angle 8. Notice that they are on alternate sides of the transversal, and they're outside of the parallel lines. So they are alternate exterior, because they're outside the parallel lines, exterior angles. And those, we can see, are congruent. All right, angles 3 and angle 5 right there. Okay, well, they're also on alternate sides, but they are in between the parallel lines. So we have alternate interior angles. And those are congruent. And then the relationship between angle 2 and angle 4. There's a couple different things that you could say for 2 and 4. So let's just go back and like kind of highlight these. There's 2 and there's angle 4. Well, they share a side and they come together to form a straight line. So you can either say that they're a linear pair, okay, because they come together to form the straight line. You could also say that they are supplementary. All right, but supplementary just means that they would add up to 180. It does not mean that they have to share a side. So just it's like a little fine detail, if you will. Okay, but both would be acceptable in this case. And then we have 2 and 5. So let's go ahead and take a look there. So 2 and 5, notice they're in the same corners. Okay, so they're on the same side. So that is our corresponding angles. Oops, angles. And those are also congruent. And I forgot to write my relationship here. Those add up to 180. So when we have our angle relationships, things that we want to think about, they can be equal in value, they add up to 180, or they add up to 90. And there's sometimes like they just add up to make something different, but for the most part, these vocabulary words, that's what it breaks down into. They add up to 180, 90, or they are equal in value. So that's just something to think about as we go through finding angle measurements. Okie dokie. So I'm going to actually skip, since we're talking about angles right now, I'm going to go ahead and skip to number 27 and 28. Okay. And then if we have time, we'll go right back in this video to the ones previous to that. Otherwise, we'll make one final video after this. All right, so go ahead and encourage you, now that we've just talked about all the vocabulary, I encourage you to pause the video, label your diagram, and see if you at least get the setup correct. I would come back and check to see if you have the setup right before you go ahead and solve, because if you set it up wrong, chances are you're not going to solve it correctly. All right, so go ahead, pause the video, try the setup for 27. When you think you have it correctly set up, press play to see how it goes. Alrighty, so here we have two lines. They're parallel. Again, little pet peeve of mine is it really should show you or tell you that they're parallel. All right, but what we have here, we're talking about angle 4, so we're looking at angle 4. Let me highlight that. Angle 4 and angle 3. Okay, well, who cares about this if they're equal right there? I know that the relationship between 3 and 4 is that they are vertical. Okay, and so if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and set up that here's angle 4 and angle 3. They are equal to each other. All right, so I'm going to put, so what we're saying is angle 4 is equal to angle 3. Now, be careful because look at what it actually wants. It wants the value or the measure of angle 1. So we're going to put a pin in that. We'll come back to that. Right now, there's like, I'm going to think about like, well, how do I figure out angle 1? We're going to think about that. What's that relationship? How does 1 relate to the ones that we've been given? All right, so let's go ahead and get that part set up, solve from there, and see what we can go for. So go ahead and pause the video if you will need to finish solving. Okay. All right, let's take a look at what we've discovered. By setting up this problem here, we have discovered that the value of x is 16. Now, that is not the value of the angles, 3 or 4, right? Remember, angle 4, I don't know if you can see my mouse, angle 4 is right here. It's 2x minus 10. So I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and figure out what that value is. So it's 2, angle 4 is 2 times 16 minus 10. So 32 minus 10, that is 20. Oh, I made a mistake. Does anyone see it? I was checking that they were supposed to be the same. All right, did you catch my mistake? I forgot the 0. Oopsie. There we go. It's supposed to be 70. My fault. All right, but I caught my mistake because I was plugging it in to this one and this one. I was like, hey, we're supposed to get the same answer, and that's how I caught my mistake. All right, let's try that again. All right, so angle 4, it doesn't matter which one I plug it into. I should get the same thing. So here, 70 plus 60, that means it's 130. Same thing here. 2 times 70, that's 140, minus 10, that's 130. So I'm going to go back to my diagram. Here's what I know. I know that this is 130 degrees. These are both 130 degrees. Well, okay, let's figure out what else is 130 degrees. Well, angle 4 and angle 8 are corresponding, so this is 130 degrees, right? And I know 7 and 8 are vertical, so this is 130 degrees. But if the question is, what's the measure of angle 1? All right, well, what do we know now? If I know angle 1, right, these two angles come together to form a straight line, or maybe you see it this way, these two angles come together to form a straight line, that must mean that angle 1 is equal to 50 degrees. All right, go ahead and take a look at 28. Try to get the setup and see what you can do, and then come back and follow me and we'll take you through the whole problem. Okie dokie, so here's where we're starting. They gave us angle 4, which is right here, and angle 8. Ooh, okay. So, interesting kind of relationship that we have going here. They do not equal each other. This is outside of the parallel lines. They are on alternate sides, but one's outside, one's inside. These are actually like, right, if we think about it, we have to kind of connect the dots. Angle 8 is the same as angle 5. And actually, let me go ahead and let me do this in a different color. Okay. And the other way to think about it too is, or we can even say angle 8 is the same as angle 3. So now, if we're trying to see what's the relationship, well, if we take a look at 3 and 4, I know that these two come together to make a straight line, which is 180 degrees. So if angle 3 plus angle 4 is 180, that means that angle 8 and angle 4 are going to be 180. So that was a big connect the dot kind of moment there. It wasn't that direct relationship. So I know that angle 4 plus angle 8 is going to add up to 180. Now what I've already done is I've established a relationship that 8 and 3, angle 8 is equal to angle 3. So if I figure out what angle 8 is, I can easily figure out what angle 3 is. So let's go ahead and get started. Angle 4 is 3x plus 40. I'm going to add it to angle 8, which is represented by 2x. I get 180. All right, we're going to go ahead and speed up here to get in time. Subtract 40 from both sides. Divide by 5. We get 28. Now, again, remember, that's the value of x. So angle 8 is twice that. So 28 times 2, which is 56. And angle 3 is the same as angle 8 because they're corresponding. So angle 3 is equal to 56 degrees. All right, Check out our last video to wrap up this review.